Hello, Keith Rucker here at VintageMachinery.org. Guys, and today we are going to be getting back to work over here on the steam Stoker engine. Where I kind of left off is we got the wrist pins installed that go in the crossheads, and next I want to get the crosshead or the connecting rods attached to the crankshaft. But before we do that, we had put the crankshaft in the previous episode, and if you guys remember, the crankshaft was just a little bit tight turning, and I said I was going to take this thing back apart and do a little bit more adjusting to that. Since we did that, I think I've got a tool now that's going to help me get this middle bearing a little bit looser and keep it round, which is what I need to do. So I think before we go any farther, I'm just going to go ahead and get this crankshaft done. It's got to be done sooner or later, and I just feel like better sooner than later. So we're just going to go ahead and do it. So today what I'm going to do is go ahead and get the crankshaft back out of here, and then we're going to see about doing some honing in there to get that round and a little bit larger in diameter so that it will spin like it should. The outside ones I think are going to be fine. They're pretty nice and loose on there. We were able to just ream those out. The inside one I wasn't able to use the reamer on, but I think I got a tool that we can do a better job on it and get it like it needs to be. So anyway, first thing is get these end pieces off. I got just held in place with a couple of bolts right now. When I took them apart originally, I actually had to take a gear puller on here and put it into the crankshaft and kind of pull it out. I don't know if I'm gonna have to do that or whether it'll just tap off of there. We're gonna see what we have to do to get these off, and then we'll take the bolts off the main in the center and get it out of there, and then we'll go from there. So let's get these ends off. So let's start. We'll get the bolts that I used to hold it in place out. That's good. I saw it move a little bit there. All right. And I'm just going to take a dead blow hammer here and see if we can just tap it out without having to put a puller on there. Let's keep our fingers crossed. I think it's going to work. I'll know that this is in here real tight. This is a tight fit. It's a tight fit up underneath the bottom. Not all this is just on the bearing. It had to kind of pull up in there, but it's coming out fairly easily. Yeah, once it gets out, see, it turns on the bearing much easier. All right, that one is out. We do the same thing on the other side and hope it comes out easy too. All right, I got the bolts out already. Yeah, I think we got it. And I'm going to take off my bolts here on the main bearing. This bearing here should just lift straight up. I'm going to leave all my shims in here, I think. And now our crankshaft should pull straight up out of here. Same thing here on the top bearing. And we'll put this back together. I'm going to go ahead and bolt it all down just like it'll go, and then we'll work on honing that out a little bit. All right, guys, so what I'm going to try to do this with is one of these Sun hones. Now, these are really designed for cylinders like on engines, but what I like about this particular hone is, you got some stones on here. There's two stones, but there's also these guides, and these guides help to kind of keep it centered up. These are not cutting surfaces, they're just guides. This is the actual stone that's doing your cutting again. And you can fine adjust this thing. You can just basically turn a little knob back here and it just opens these up, expands them ever so slightly. But what's nice about this hone versus the hone like I was using before, let me show you that one. So the hone I was using before was this little spring-loaded one, but this one here, each one of them is independent of one another. So if your hole that you're or your bore that you're honing, if it is out of round, this is just going to automatically expand and continue keeping it out of round. The sun-in home, on the other hand, it is going to, everything's going to enlarge at the same time, so this keeps it running true, keeps it running in a circle, and I think that's going to work a little bit better. Now, I'm going to go ahead and I've already kind of got this adjusted close. We're going to insert it into the part here, and it's going to turn in this direction, and I'm going to put this on a drill or something, and you know, we can just kind of go back and forth, and you adjust it by turning this little right here, this little piece here. It just ever so slightly makes it a little bit larger, and you just keep doing that until you get it honed out to the size that you want. So I don't own this tool. This is actually came from a viewer that he had let me borrow this before, and he sent it down to me. I wouldn't mind finding one of these. I have had the need for them before, not for automotive work, but for other stuff. Again, you know, it's designed for automotive work, but it's good for other things as well. Oops, I'm going the wrong way. There we go. I'm just tightening that up in there ever so slightly. Now when those wipers come around, they kind of hit the little joint in there, but they seem like they're going right over it. It makes a little click, but I don't think it's going to hurt anything. All right, I'm going to get some honing fluid or some kind of fluid in there to kind of flush this with. They made some oil for it. A lot of people just use kerosene. We're just going to use a little light fluid in there to help do this. I'm going to probably put this just on a drill, and we're going to start honing it. I don't want to go too fast with it. I want to keep it kind of slow, but hopefully we can open that up a little bit and keep it round at the same time. That's the main key. And we're just going to kind of do this a couple of times until we get a good fit with the crankshaft, and then try to put this thing back together. So before we get to honing on this, I do want to just kind of get a measurement of where we are when we're starting. So I'm just going to use a inside bore mic here, and I'm going to get some measurements in a couple of different places, rotating it around. All right. I'm just going to start. It's fairly uniform. So I'm just over 3 inches right there, about 302 or so. That just kind of give me a guide on where we're starting from, so I don't get too carried away. And I'm going to tighten it back up. I loosened it to get it out. I don't want to get it too tight. All right. I think we are ready to start honing. I'm going to take some mineral oil and just put a little coat on the inside of this. That'll just kind of serve as some honing oil in there. And I'm just using a tool here to turn this. I don't want to turn it too fast. Whoops. That is unscrewing itself, of course. All right, let me work through this. All right, let's try this again. I've tightened that up. I'm going to have to go in this direction, which is kind of unscrewing that, but it seems to be working. We're just going to hone this out a little bit. I'm just going to go back and forth until it kind of loosens up. And then we'll tighten it up a little bit more. A little more oil up in there. See if I can tighten that up just a little bit. So we'll just use this little tool here. Tighten that up a little bit until it All right, I'm going to extract the tool, get a measurement, see where we're at, loosen it up just a little bit more. All right, I'm going to pull the cap off and drop the crank in and just see how it feels and decide whether we need to go any farther. So let me pull these nuts off and we'll give her another try. Oh yeah, that is a lot better than it was. And that's not hardly rocking at all. We're going to give it a try. I'm going to just tighten up the main bearing and see if it'll spin easily. And if so, we'll put it back together. Everything up. All right, that is much better, but it's still a little stiffer than what I want it to be. But we made a huge improvement. But I think I'm going to take it off and we're going to do a little bit more because that's still just a little bit too stiff in my opinion. So I'm going to do another round of honing and we'll put this back together and give it another try. But we're definitely making progress. All right, that is turning beautifully. I have no problems with that at all. So I think we are ready to continue on. These bolts are tightened down tight. I did not see any torque specifications on these in the book. So I'm just getting them tight with a wrench here, and I'm going to put a lock nut on the top of those to kind of keep them from backing off. So we'll just come in here and put a second lock nut on top. This is how it was in the specs. Oh, need one more. And I'm just tightening the top one, jamming it up against the bottom one, and that should keep those nuts from backing off. And I think we're fine. And that feels great. And I think we're ready to button this up and get the end caps put back on. But before I do, I think I'm gonna go ahead and make the gaskets so I don't have to take these back off again. So I need to draw this up and get those gaskets cut out on my gasket cutter. So this is the area that the gasket will fit into. And like I said, I'm gonna draw this up in CAD. I need to get some measurements on it and everything, but once we get it drawn up, I got a laser cutter that should be able to cut that out. I'll probably just cut out a piece of just regular paper first, just to make sure everything's like it needs to be, and then we'll cut one out of gasket paper once we get everything fit. So let me work on that, and we'll get that cut out. So I just want to show here, I went over into Fusion 360 and I drew the gasket, and then I went to my laser cutter. This is just a piece of paper, and I cut it out just to make sure everything was going to work, and I believe this is going to work. It took me 3 tries to get everything spaced just right. It's just really hard to get the hole spacings and everything measured on this, particularly around this radius and stuff on the bottom. But I made a cut. I actually got the radius on the bottom wrong, but the spacing was a little bit wrong on top. I made an adjustment, then I had to go back and make another adjustment, but I think we got it pretty well. But this is going to work. So this is just, again, just a piece of paper. We're going to go to the laser cutter now, and we're going to cut out an actual piece of gasket paper, and we'll show that. So first off, I've just got my pattern here on the screen, and you can kind of see the piece of gasket paper from my camera, so I just placed it in there. I'm going to try to get both gaskets out of this one piece of paper. We'll flip it over and cut the second one on a second cut. I did make a test cut to make sure my laser would cut through this gasket material. It's kind of thick material, but I was able to do it at 100% power, and what was that? Had to slow it way down. Let's get over here and look at this. So that was 10 inches per minute is my cutting speed, which is pretty slow for this thing. So let me, I think it'll do it. I'm gonna be cutting this in the Creality Falcon Pro 2. I got my piece of gasket paper in there. I'm just gonna close the top. That just protects it from the laser getting out of there. And we'll turn it on and let her cut. So first thing I'm gonna do is just frame the area we're gonna cut. This just kind of makes sure I got my paper set right. And I believe we're good. So I'm just gonna start it. Here we go. So again, it's cutting pretty slow. It's a fairly thick piece of gasket paper. But I think we'll get it. right. Yeah, okay. Just want to make sure those are going to come apart. One gasket. Now I'm going to flip this over, and we will use the camera to position, cut the second one. So I've got my overlay here, and I can do this now is just kind of grab my, oops, let me reselect it. I'll grab the center here, and I can kind of position that down, and I want to get it kind of down to the edge of the paper so that I've got as much material left over that I can use for other gaskets down the road. So I'll go ahead and we'll cut this one out as well. We'll go ahead and get our studs put in here, and this time I am going to put a little anti-seize on these just to make sure we don't have any problems later on if we need to take this apart like we did when we took it apart and we started working on it. So I'm just going to screw these in. Our gasket will fit right in there. And now we will put our bearing up here. Just put a little dab on each one. All right. So let's see how this thing spins. Oh yeah. That feels good. And the stand's wobbling, but the crankshaft is not, so that's good. Means we got a nice fit on those bearings. We get the other side put on, same process, and I think we'll have this crankshaft worked out. I'm going to put a little squirt of oil on these journals. That's turning nice. Maybe just a little bit tighter than it was before I had the other one on, but this is not bad at all. And actually, as I'm turning this, that oil spreading around in there, it's getting looser and looser. It'll wear in just fine. I'm happy with this. I think we're good on the crankshaft. All right. Load off my mind. Now we can work on getting the connecting rod bearings connected in here and move on. Well, there we go. One step closer on the Stoker engine here. Crankshaft is installed. I believe this is a permanent installation. I don't see a reason for this to have to come back out. If it does, no big deal. We can take it back out, but I think we are good to move forward here. There are two little things I got left to do on this, and I'm just going to do it a little bit later on. There's a seal that goes in here. I've got the seal. I just got to put it in there. And there is a cover that goes on this side, and we're going to have to make a custom gasket for it as well. That'll just button this up. But for right now, what we need to do, we're ready to move on. So up next, getting the connecting rod bearing bored out to the right size to fit the crankshaft journals, and then we can revisit our Babbitt pour and make sure that we've got everything lined up properly, and get on the first one, if necessary, re-pour it. I think we're going to be all right, but we'll see. It's just too early to tell right now. And then get the other side set up, and we'll be ready to move on. So with that, guys, that is a wrap. As always, thanks so much for watching. Please do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thumbs up, comments, they really help out a bunch. Please do that if you don't mind. And as always, a big, huge thank you to those who support the site financially through Patreon, PayPal, and YouTube memberships. It also helps out a really lot, and I do greatly appreciate you guys to kick in and help out there as well. And with that, that's a wrap. We'll catch you on the next video. As always, thanks for watching.